soft, slow, ASMR style voice. It's time to rest now. Let your breath slow. Feel the weight of your body sink gently into the bed beneath you, as if the mattress were an ancient cloud, waiting to carry you upward into the stars. The worries, they can wait. Let the air around you soften, like velvet draped across your shoulders. Let your jaw unclench. Let your arms go loose. Let your chest rise and fall, just as it's meant to. Now, Cool and fragrant, brushing through ivy-covered stone, whispering over candlelit parchment, and rustling the dried herbs hanging from old wooden rafters. Tonight, we climb into a dream, and our dream begins at the edge of the known world. Our story tonight sets sail at the top of a forgotten cliff, where wind sings through ruins older than memory. There lies a castle, Thornhill Keep. Time has worn its stones smooth. Moss and lichen cling to the mortar like ancient secrets. Birdsong echoes through the hollow of its towers during the day. But at night, only the stars speak here, and in the tallest turret. In a room shaped like a bell, tucked high above the waking world, a young girl sits beneath an arched window, gazing upward. Her name is Alira, and Alira is a stargazer. She wears a threadbare cloak, the color of dusk. Her fingers are ink-stained from her journals. And around her neck hangs a delicate astrolabe brass, etched with moons and lattice, gifted to her by a traveler. She was only 10 when the Moorish scholar visited Thornhill, riding a tired horse and carrying scrolls wrapped in oilskin. He saw her sketching stars in the dirt with a twig, and before he left, he placed the instrument gently in her hands. "Every star," he whispered, "is a door to an old story." That was 5 winters ago. Now Alira is 15, and the turret is her sanctuary. The floor is lined with faded rugs. Stacks of parchment curl at the edges. There is always a candle burning low, and always a faint smell of beeswax and dried lavender. Some nights, she lights a fire in the corner hearth. But most nights, she leaves the room cold and silent, preferring the wind to speak and the stars to guide her. The sky is especially clear. No clouds, no mist. Just velvet black above, and thousands of glimmering stars, each one waiting. Alira draws her knees up to her chest, resting her astrolabe in her lap. She looks through the window at a constellation rising in the east, a shape she knows well. "The wandering falcon," she whispers. And just like that, her fingers begin to move. The astrolabe turns. The plates align. She traces an arc across the sky and notes it on her map, but not with numbers or dry calculations. No. Alira writes in stories. Every star is a character. Every constellation, a chapter. As the stars turn overhead, the parchment slowly fills with looping script. She tells herself a tale. Let your breath match hers now. slow, steady, and curious. Imagine yourself beside her, sitting cross-legged on a thick woolen rug. You can smell the parchment. Feel the candlelight flickering against your skin. The fire in the hearth crackles gently behind you, casting long shadows against the stone. Outside, the wind sighs against the narrow window. Inside, the stars begin their silent waltz. Alira lifts her quill again. She begins her story, and so do we. Long ago, she murmurs aloud, when the mountains were young and rivers still remembered their names, there was a falcon, with feathers the color of storm clouds and eyes like silver coins. It flew alone, from land to land, never resting. It had once belonged to a prince, but the prince had vanished in a war long forgotten. Still, the falcon searched for him, soaring over deserts and forests, oceans and ruins, calling his name into the wind. Every time the falcon passed beneath them, they marked his path with light. One by one, they gathered to form a shape, a trail, a message ... in the heavens above. And now, Alira traces that same path, her fingers brushing across cold brass, her mind wandering further with each line she writes. But her eyes are growing heavy too. The fire is low now, its glow golden and faint, like a sun dying gently into sleep. The parchment rustles softly as she moves. Outside, the stars twinkle like lullabies, distant voices calling her. She leans back against a cushion. The astrolabe rests on her chest, and her eyes flutter ... closed. But the story is not over. No, it's just beginning. Because in dreams, the stars speak clearer. And tonight, as Alira sleeps beside the parchment, a single beam of starlight slips through the narrow window. And in that silver sliver of light, a new tale begins to unfold. Stay with the quiet now. Let your breath soften. Let your mind drift. The night winds have much more to share, and Thornhill Keep waits patiently, high above the world, watching the stars, one story at a time. The fire has gone to ember now. Its warmth, nothing more than a sleepy hush across the stone floor. And, outside, the wind tiptoes over the turret's edges, carrying with it the scent of dew-soaked ivy and the far-off hush of the sea. Alira sleeps, curled in her shawl, her fingers still gently touching the edge of her map, and above her, the stars begin to shimmer. Not just with light, but with intention. One star, just one, seems to pulse brighter, not the brightest in the sky. No, this one is quiet, modest. Its light touches the brass astrolabe. Something stirs. A low hum rises from the gears. The plates inside it shift in their own. No hands turn them. And then the room shivers. just the faintest tremble, as if time itself had breathed in. Imagine now, ... the feeling of floating, ... You are neither sitting nor lying down. You are weightless, lifted softly, ... as if the night has wrapped its arms around you and begun to carry you upward, past to the candle, past the maps, through the window arch, into the sky. And Elira is no longer sleeping. She is walking barefoot, wrapped in her dust-colored cloak, but her feet do not touch the stone floor of the turret. They touch light. A path of starlight stretches out before her, like a silver thread woven across the sky, and she follows it. Step by slow, silent step. Each time her foot meets the thread, it hums beneath her, like the strings of a harp long forgotten. She doesn't look back. She doesn't ask where it leads. She knows, somewhere deep in her dreaming heart, that this path is her own. Not far and unreachable, but warm and whispering, like kindly old storytellers. Elida of Thornhill, keeper of the sky's memory, ... She comes to a bend in the thread. There, waiting for her, is a figure in a long robe, standing with his back to her. His cloak flutters like silk in the windless air. He carries a staff topped with an orb that reflects the stars like water. And when he turns, she recognizes his face. The Moorish scholar, the man who gave her the astrolabe. But here, he is younger. Eyes bright with starlight, voice deep and echoing. Elira, he says, smiling gently. You have come far. She wants to ask how. She wants to ask if this is a dream, but her voice won't come. Only her breath quiet and slow. Like yours now. The man gestures beside him, and there, standing silently, are thousands of small wooden drawers, like a library ... suspended in the sky. Each drawer has a symbol on it, some with crescents, some with feathers, some with tiny beasts, or ships, or eyes. These, he says, are the stories the stars keep. She gazes at the vast constellation library, each drawer glowing faintly. Soft golden handles, old hinges, but they are fading. The man whispers, few remember them now. He steps closer to her. That is why you were called. And from his robes, he produces a single thread. It glows. A faint silver blue, warm in his hands, weightless. This thread, he explains, belongs to the falcon, the one who wanders. Elira's eyes widen. I've written about him, she says, her voice finally finding breath. Yes, he replies, and so his thread is still bright. He holds it out to her. Take it. Stitch it to the sky. Let your breath slow once more. ... Inhale, gently. Exhale with ease. You too are drifting on threads of memory. Carried by stars. Alira reaches for the thread. As her fingers touch it, a vision flashes behind her eyes. She sees a desert. She sees wings slicing across a crimson sky. She hears a falcon's cry, and a prince kneeling in the sand, looking upward. Then, The thread pulses in her palm. She looks back at the man. But how? She asks. With your heart, he says. Follow where it tugs, where it burns, where the stars lean close. He turns toward the drawers, and if you find a drawer that has gone dark, open it, speak to it, write what was forgotten. Alira clutches the thread to her chest. The library begins to fade. The man's figure dissolves into starlight. His staff glowing one last time before turning to mist. And then, She is falling gently, slowly, like a petal folding for sleep. She wakes the turret. The candle still lit, but something is in her hand. The thread, real, glowing faintly. Alira does not question it. She moves to the map. She unrolls fresh parchment. She dips her quill and begins to write. Let yourself drift now. Just like her. Let the fire whisper. Let the stars spin slowly. Let the story wrap itself around your shoulders like a shawl of sleep. There are more drawers to open, more threads to find, more constellations to stitch into the sky. But for now, we rest. For now, and the turret above Thornhill Keep holds one more story safe and warm. Let your breath deepen now. In and out. You are not in your room. Not entirely. You are beside her, in the turret, wrapped in candlelight and mystery. You watch as she gathers her shawl and steps onto the balcony, just beyond the arched window. The stones are cold beneath her feet, but the night air is warmer than before, and filled with the low hum of sleeping earth. Far below, the sea sighs against distant cliffs. She closes her eyes and listens. There is something just beneath the silence tonight. Not music, not words, but a thread. She opens her eyes again, and the stars tilt. Not dramatically, not in any way that would shake the world, but just enough. Enough for her to notice. The drawer with no name. It's changing. The crooked knee star glows brighter. The two leaning stars have grown closer, almost touching. And then a fifth star appears. Small, dim, new. It blinks once, then twice. Like a child, unsure of its place. Something's being rewritten above her. and she feels, with sudden certainty, that the drawer is opening. A vision comes again, but not like before. This time, it's colder, quieter. She sees a room of stone, darker than her turret, older, deeper, lit only by one flame. A drawer, not suspended in sky like the others, but built into the wall itself, sealed shut with no handle, its wood smooth and black as river glass. She steps closer in the vision and places her palm against it. It hums. It recognizes her. The drawer wants to open. But not yet. Not without the thread. Breathe ... deeply. Softly. Let the mystery open like the drawer. Let your thoughts hush. Let your mind drift between waking and dreaming. As Alira does now, she jolts back into the turret, her fingers clutching the edge of the balcony. She didn't fall, but something shifted. She knows that the fifth star wasn't random. It was a key. A key that fits the drawer with no name. She turns back to her desk, heart fluttering gently against her ribs. She opens the black journal again, and in the margin, next to her sketch, she writes, "The drawer breathes. It knows me. One star was not enough. Now there are 5. I must find the story inside." She looks to the thread. It has dimmed now. Resting, waiting for the next door to open. She rests too. The candlelight dances. It crackles slightly, its flame barely taller than a thimble, casting golden pools across parchment and stone. Alira sits upright now, eyes still glazed with the weight of sleep and stars. She hasn't spoken aloud since waking, but her hand moves, gently, deliberately, the quill scratching in slow, looping curves. Not just a story, a remembering. The thread glows softly beside her ink pot. Every so often, it pulses. Once, twice, as if breathing in rhythm with her. And in the silence of the turret, you can feel it too. A hush that isn't empty, but expectant, like the pause before snowfall, or the space between dreams. Outside the narrow window, the sky has shifted. Midnight has passed, and with it, above Thornhill Keep, new constellations begin to rise. Those only visible for a brief whisper of night. They are shy, ancient, half forgot, and among them, one blinks slowly into life, a crooked arc of 4 stars, nestled just above the horizon like a sleeping fawn. Alira's breath catches. She leans forward, narrowing her eyes. That shape, she's never seen it drawn on any of her maps. Not in the charts. The monk's keep. Not in the scrolls. The traveler, once left behind. But there it is. Plain, soft, waiting. She touches the astrolabe. No entry. No symbol. Alira stares for a long moment. Then she rises, barefoot, and carries her candle across the turret. She kneels before an old wooden chest. The hinges creak softly as she opens it, a sound as delicate as moth wings brushing silk. Inside, parchments, tied bundles of reed pens, not large, but carved with small stars along its lid. She opens it carefully, and from within removes a black leather journal. This is her book of unnamed skies, a place where she sketches only the constellations that speak directly to her in silence. On the first blank page, she draws what she sees for stars. One crooked, like a bent knee. One low and flickering. Two that seem to lean toward each other. And under the sketch, she writes, "The drawer with no name. Appeared on the third breath after midnight. Not catalogued, not known, yet deeply familiar." She presses the silver thread between the pages and closes the book. It pulses just once. But Alira feels it in her chest. A subtle tug, like a whisper pulling at the edges of her memory. Lying once more upon the rug, head nestled beside the journal, fingers resting against the cover like a promise. Outside, the sky begins to pale. The stars dim, retreating like shy dancers before the light. But one drawer. And in her sleep, Alira whispers its name. Though no one but the wind hears it, rest now. There is more to come. But even stars must sleep between songs. Let the story settle. Let your breath soften. You are safe in the tower. You are safe in the stars. And the drawer will wait for you. The morning light is beginning to rise, but gently the way a lullaby might bloom in a quiet room. It peeks through the arrow-slit window, casting honey-colored stripes across the floor, softening the sharp edges of books. Alira stirs, but she doesn't wake all at once. She drifts, half in sleep, half in sky. She floats in a place between pages, between stars, between what was and what might be. The drawer calls again. It doesn't speak in words. It hums. A vibration beneath her thoughts, pulling her back into the blue-lit vision she glimpsed. Only this time, she isn't a visitor. She is inside it. Standing once more in the candlelit chamber, deep below some forgotten keep. The walls around her are smooth stone, worn with time, but unmarred. The ceiling arches like a cathedral vault, but no moonlight reaches here. Only the single candle, blue, unmoving, untouched by breeze. Its flame casts no shadow, and in its glow, the drawer waits, still sealed, still silent, but trembling now, ever so slightly, like something alive behind the wood. Alira takes a step closer, then another. She doesn't speak. She doesn't knock. She simply reaches out and presses the thread to the face of the drawer. Let your breath slow. Let the drawer open for you too. You are inside the silence now. Witnessing. There is no sound when the drawer unlocks. Only a deep warmth that spreads through Alira's chest like stepping into a sunbeam after long shadow. The wood splits down the center and opens, not outward, but inward. Within, there is no parchment, no relic, no star chart. Only light, a soft blue glow, curling like smoke, not from the drawer, but from behind her. Do you know the name of the drawer you've opened? Alira turns. There is a woman standing near the candle. Her robes are simple, her hair the color of starlight, and her eyes, they mirror the fifth star that appeared above Thornhill. Soft, but watchful. I don't know its name, Alira whispers, but it feels like it knows mine. The woman smiles. That's enough. She steps closer. This drawer belongs to the forgotten ones, the children of stories never told, of people who watched the skies but left no mark on the world's memory. She pauses, then gestures to the candle. Each flame here is a voice that went unheard. Alira looks at the flame again. It flickers just once, and then stills again. A weight settles in her chest. Not sorrow, but purpose. Then I must tell their stories, she says softly. I must remember them. The woman nods. You are the Stargazer. But you are more than a watcher now. You are a gatherer of echoes. She steps back, fading already. Write it down, Alira of Thornhill. Write until the drawer closes with peace. Let your mind quiet now. Let your breath match Alira's again, as she returns to waking. The light from the drawer clings to her skin, a shimmer of memory too delicate to hold. She opens her eyes back in the turret, just as the candle on her desk flutters, then dies. Smoke curls upward, the same blue as the drawer. And in her lap, a new page of parchment, blank, waiting. She doesn't rush. Alira moves with reverence, as though the quill itself is part of the ritual, and writes. There was once a girl who watched the sky, but lived too far from towns to be remembered. She traced constellations in frost with her fingers, and gave names to stars no one else dared to see. Her words flow like wind through tall grass, not hurried, not labored, just meant. With each line, the memory of the nameless girl sharpens. A figure wrapped in wool, barefoot in snow, gazing up from a hill. And with each stroke of ink, the drawer closes a little more content. It seems to be known again. Sunlight warms the turret stones. A kettle simmers softly on the small iron stove, sending the scent of chamomile and dried mint into the air. Alira pauses only once to sip and smile. But even in that stillness, the stars remain behind her eyelids, guiding her pen. When the tale of the forgotten girl is finished, The silver thread pulses once more and vanishes, not gone, but absorbed into the parchment, into the ink, into the memory. Alira leans back in her chair, eyes closed, feeling the hush settle over her again. No voice speaks, no vision comes, but there is peace in this silence. A drawer has closed, and somewhere a forgotten star burns just a little brighter, because someone remembered. Now, let your breath deepen. Let the hush of Thornhill Keep fill your room. The turret is still. The wind is kind. The drawer is at rest. And so are you. Let yourself settle now. The sun has passed its peak. Its golden rays stretch long and soft through the turret window, catching the motes of dust. The sky outside is pale blue. A few high clouds pass like ships without sails, and all is quiet. Even the crows who circle the broken battlements below are hushed, as though the keep itself is holding its breath. Alira has rested. She's washed her ink-stained hands, rebraided her hair with a bit of lavender from the bundle hanging near the fireplace. And now she kneels before the ancient cedar cabinet built into the wall beside her desk. She opens it with care. Inside are tools passed down from her grandmother. A compass, a bone folder, a cracked lens in a bronze frame. And at the back, hidden beneath folded cloth, a small wooden box. She opens it. Inside, a timepiece. A clock. But this one is peculiar. It has no hands, no numbers, no ticking sound. Only a smooth, circular face of smoky glass, and the faint imprint of stars beneath its surface. The glass is warm, alive, almost. This was not built for time as we know it. It's not meant to count seconds or minutes. It measures something else. Starlight, memory, possibility. Only that, when it glows, a story is ready to be found. And today, it glows. Just faintly, like the blush of the horizon before dusk. Let your mind drift, just as hers does. Close your eyes and imagine the glow. A light without heat, a message without words, a rhythm not of clocks, but of constellations. She places the clock on her writing table. It begins to hum softly, not like metal or machinery, more like a cat curled beside a hearth. And the surface of the clock begins to shimmer, revealing a tiny map, not of the land, not of the stars, but of moments. One point glows brighter than the others. Alira leans in. Her heartbeat slows. Her breath evens. And the moment unfolds. She sees a tower, but not Thornhill. This tower is square, not round. Its walls painted with lapis blue and gold. Its windows shaped like teardrops. On its highest balcony stands a boy, perhaps 12 years old. He wears robes, a sash marked with unfamiliar letters. In his hands, he holds an astrolabe, not brass, like Alira's. This one is obsidian and silver, etched with tiny circles that shift even as he studies them. His lips move in quiet recitation, only wind and birds circling above him. The boy looks up at the sun, then down at a bowl of water beside his feet. He drops a polished stone into it and watches the ripple. Elira understands. He's marking time, not with clocks, but with shadows and light. She sees scrolls behind him, charts drawn not in ink, but pressed into clay. This boy is a watcher, a thinker, a keeper of a forgotten sky. And in her chest, the silver thread burns again. Breathe in gently, hold, and exhale slowly. You are in the boy's tower now, just as much as the turret. Float between the two, let the air change around you. Feel the dust, the silence, the sun above. Elira opens her eyes. The clock is still glowing, but the shimmer has begun to fade. That vision, that glimpse, is already slipping like mist between her fingers. Not the book of unnamed skies this time. This requires a different ink. She uses the one made from violet bark, the kind that only appears under moonlight. It smells faintly of iron and lilac. She writes, I saw a boy who read the sky with silence. He had no need for ticking gears. His astrolabe whispered the sun's journey through a bowl of still water. He didn't speak to be heard, only to remember. She draws his tower, and the birds, and the clay scrolls behind him, and just below it, she writes, Time, as the stars know it. The moment she finishes the last line, the strange clock on her desk goes dim. Its glow absorbed, its map erased, its hum silenced. But the air feels heavier now, not in burden, in meaning. Like something sacred has passed through. She stands, walks once to the balcony. The day is nearly done. The sun dips lower, and shadows climb the inner walls of the turret. Elira leans against the stone rail. She watches the clouds change color. First rose, then amber, then soft plum. And in the hush that follows, she speaks aloud. To watch is to remember. To remember is to stitch time back together. And far above, the first stars blink back into view, as though they've heard her. And agree. Now, settle your breath once more. Let yourself rest inside this thought. Somewhere in the vast history of the world, there was a boy who timed the sun with stones and water, a boy whose name may never be known. But because of a stargazer in a turret, his moment is stitched into the night again. And because you are listening, you are part of that remembering, too. The stars are returning now, one by one, like pearls spilled across deep velvet. Elira watches them from her turret, a quiet sentinel wrapped in a woolen shawl, her hair catching the candlelight like strands of gold thread. The sky is deeper tonight. Not just darker, but deeper, as if the layers of time are thinner here, and memories might be touched if one simply reached upward. She reaches, not with her hands, but with her thoughts. And the stars answer, not in language, but in invitation. One cluster glows brighter, near the western edge of the sky. It curves like a crescent shell, with a small spark at its center. It's not on any chart she owns, not a constellation anyone speaks of, but her heart knows it. And with no hesitation, Alira gathers her journal, her cloak, and the thread, now pale and almost translucent, and steps out once more into the wind. Not sharp, not cold, just cool enough to awaken your skin. The wind in Thornhill moves like a story, finding its first word. She descends the spiral staircase that leads below the turret. The steps are worn smooth by centuries of passing feet. Each one bears the hush of time. She carries a small lantern. Its flame flickers but never fades. At the bottom of the stair, a heavy oak door waits. Iron-bound, marked with runes. No one in the village remembers. She touches it with her palm, and it opens, not because of a key, but because it knows her. Inside, the oldest room in Thornhill Keep. No one else enters here anymore. Not the steward, not the masons, not the monks who still visit in spring. This room is known only to the wind, and to Alira. It is the wind library. Breathe slowly now, in through the nose, and out through the mouth. Feel the shift in air, as if the stones themselves are breathing with you. The chamber is round, built of gray stone, lined from floor to ceiling with wooden drawers. Hundreds, maybe thousands. Each one carved with a sigil. A feather, a fish, a boot, a harp, a child's face. And each one holds a story, not written in ink, but in wind. Alira kneels before the center pedestal. There lies the listening dish. A silver basin shaped like a wide. It hums faintly, its surface rippling, though there is no water inside. It curls, rests, glows faintly. Then, the wind begins. Not a storm, not a gust, but a voice. A memory wrapped in air. It speaks not in words, but in sounds that stir images. You can hear it too, if you're quiet. First, the flutter of parchment in a high-windowed tower. Then the laugh of a girl beside a riverbank. Then boots crunching snow. Bells in the distance. The soft pluck of harp strings under a canopy of leaves. And then silence. The drawer behind Alira creaks open. She rises slowly. Drawer number 317. A simple one, carved with a pen. Inside, a bit of faded fabric, a strand of silver hair, and a small bundle of dried rosemary. But more than these, The drawer holds a story ready to be remembered. You are in the wind library now. The air brushing past your skin like silk. Every drawer you pass holds a life, a moment, a whisper once forgotten. Alira takes the rosemary, presses it between the pages of her journal, and writes. There once was a girl who wore pine needles in her hair. She was not noble, nor schooled, nor praised, but she could call the wind with her songs, and it told her where the lost things had gone. As she writes, the drawer begins to close. The wind quiets, but the scent of rosemary lingers, not just in the room, but in memory itself. Alira exhales slowly. Her breath fogs the lantern glass. The thread in the basin has gone dim again, its task complete for now. She returns it to her cloak pocket. She walks the circle of the room once, brushing her fingers along the edge of drawers she has yet to open. Some feel cold, some warm, some seem to hum in response. But she leaves them untouched tonight. Too many doors opened at once, and even the wind forgets where it was meant to go. She closes the oak door behind her and climbs back toward the turret, step by slow step. The spiral stair does not speak, but it remembers. It always remembers. Let yourself rest now, listener. You've opened a drawer, too. You've walked with the wind. You've followed the thread. Let the scent of rosemary linger in your thoughts. Let the hush of the chamber follow you into sleep. The wind library is real, not because it is seen, but because it is felt. And tonight, it is one memory stronger. It pauses, then slowly, it begins to drift toward her, not quickly, not urgently, as if it's unsure, but curious. And when it reaches the rim of the lantern, it shivers. Alira speaks no words. She only holds still. The breathlight slips inside the lantern, and the moment it does, but the light is not white, or gold, or even blue. It is the softest shade of green, the color of memory, pressed leaves. Childhood laughter in a forest long since gone. Breathe in now. Slowly. Let that green light fill your mind. It's not bright. It doesn't blind. It soothes. It eases something deep inside. A place that rarely sees the light. Alira watches the glow settle. She walks back to the tower, lantern in hand. The light does not fade. It pulses once every few moments, as if adjusting to the rhythm of her steps. She returns to the turret, places the lantern on her writing table, takes a fresh page, and opens the thread once more. The breathlight hums softly now, vibrating the wood beneath it, and the story begins to come. She writes, There was once a child who wandered into the forest with a bell and a song. No one knew her name, but the trees did. They gave her a cloak of moss and a crown of acorns. She lived between one breath and the next, never gone, never fully here, And when she vanished, the wind whispered her lullaby into the leaves, until the leaves themselves glowed green with remembering. Elira leans back. She watches the lantern. The glow begins to fade now. Slowly, peacefully. The light has done what it came to do. It found its story, and now it can rest. She closes the journal gently. She doesn't speak, but she places her hand over the cover. A silent promise. That story will not be forgotten again. The breath light within the lantern flutters once, as if in thanks, then vanishes. Not lost, but returned. And you, gentle listener, you've seen it too, haven't you? The green light, the memory, the hush between words. It may follow you now, not to haunt, but to soothe, to glow within you, just beneath your ribs, a quiet warmth you carry into sleep. Elira stirs the embers in her hearth. She doesn't need them for heat. She just likes the sound, the soft crack, pop, hiss, like fire breathing, like stories settling to sleep. Outside, the stars are in full bloom again. Above Thornhill Keep. Above Thornhill Keep, the sky swirls with lives, and beneath them, a girl with ink-stained fingers closes her eyes as the next constellation begins to rise. The night deepens. You can feel it. Can't you? The way the darkness softens, not to frighten, but to wrap around you. A gentle cloak, stitched from silence and stars. Back in the turret, Elira moves slowly. Her every step is deliberate. Her every motion calm. She pours water into the iron kettle. It hisses faintly as it touches the warmed stones. From a small wooden box, she selects a tea blend. Chamomile, lemon balm, and crushed violet. She prepares the steep with care, not as a habit, but as a ritual. The kind of ritual that invites quietness to enter the body, that makes the breath deepen. That tells the mind, you are safe here. Outside, the constellations above Thornhill Keep shift slightly. Their slow procession painting, soft arcs. Tonight, a faint fog curls over the hills, and as Elira watches from her narrow window, she sees it. Not fire, something else, pale and flickering, like breath given form. Let your breath match hers now. Inhale gently. Exhale slower still. Let your heart beat slow with the rhythm of the story. Elira doesn't fear the light. She knows this kind. The villagers call it breathlight. A drifting glow that appears only on the rarest nights when the mist from the river meets starlight. These lights don't come from the river. They come from memory. They are the pieces of stories that never found a resting place. And sometimes they return, looking for a listener. Alira slips her boots on, wraps her shawl tight, takes her journal, her thread, and one last object from the shelf above the hearth. A lantern, but not a common one, forged of glass as thin as dragonfly wings, framed in silver etched with ancient runes, and bound by a handle of twisted ivy root. Inside it, there is no flame, only a hollow space where light may gather. It is a lantern to be seen by, to call forgotten stories home. She descends the tower stairs again, this time past the wind library, past the kitchens, past the ancient cellar doors that groan in their sleep. Out into the night. The grass is damp beneath her boots. The fog kisses her cheeks and carries with it the scent of mint, moss, and old stone. She moves toward the edge of the orchard. The trees here grow wild and crooked. Their branches twist like reaching arms, and there, floating just beyond the low stone wall, is the light. It flickers like a heartbeat. Alira lifts the lantern. She opens the top with a quiet click. The breathlight notices. It pauses, then slowly, it begins to drift toward her, not quickly, not urgently, as if it's unsure, but curious. And when it reaches the rim of the lantern, it shivers. Alira speaks no words. She only holds still. The breathlight slips inside the lantern, and the moment it does, but the light is not white, or gold, or even blue. It is the softest shade of green, the color of memory, pressed leaves, childhood laughter in a forest long since gone. Breathe in now, slowly. Let that green light fill your mind. It's not bright. It doesn't blind. It soothes. It eases something deep inside, a place that rarely sees the light. Alira watches the glow settle. She walks back to the tower, lantern in hand. The light does not fade. It pulses once every few moments, as if adjusting to the rhythm of her steps. She returns to the turret, places the lantern on her writing table, takes a fresh page, and opens the thread once more. The breathlight hums softly now, vibrating the wood beneath it, and the story begins to come. She writes, "There was once a child who wandered into the forest with a bell and a song. No one knew her name, but the trees did. They gave her a cloak of moss and a crown of acorns. She lived between one breath and the next, never gone, never fully here. And when she vanished, the wind whispered her lullaby into the leaves, until the leaves themselves glowed green with remembering." Alira leans back. She watches the lantern. The glow begins to fade now. Slowly, peacefully. The light has done what it came to do. It found its story, and now it can rest. She closes the journal gently. She doesn't speak, but she places her hand over the cover, a silent promise. That story will not be forgotten again. The breathlight within the lantern flutters once, as if in thanks, then vanishes. Not lost, but returned. And you, gentle listener, you've seen it too, haven't you? The green light, the memory, the hush between words. It may follow you now, not to haunt, but to soothe, to glow within you, just beneath your ribs, a quiet warmth you carry into sleep. Elira stirs the embers in her hearth. She doesn't need them for heat. She just likes the sound, the soft crack, pop, hiss, like fire breathing, like stories settling to sleep. Outside, the stars are in full bloom again. Above Thornhill Keep. Above Thornhill Keep, the sky swirls with lives, and beneath them, a girl with ink-stained fingers closes her eyes as the next constellation begins to rise. The candle gutters. Its flame draws inward, then flickers back to life. You feel it, don't you? That moment when the body forgets the day, when the weight of thought loosens its grip, when the mind becomes like water again. Her tea long finished, her journal closed, her eyes not fixed on any one star, but somewhere between them, in the hush that holds the heavens together. A breeze curls into the turret. It smells of apples, cold stone, and lichen. And, from the orchard far below, the sound of a single bell chime. Not loud. A soft tone, like a memory returning home. Elira listens. It rings again. Chime. Once every minute. She knows what it is. In the margins of a parchment so old, the ink had half faded into the fibers. It's called the Bell of the Edge. A thing that only rings when two worlds overlap. And sleep. And tonight, it tolls for her. Let your breath grow long again. ... In and out. The bell tolls not to summon, but to soothe. You are drifting now, not flying. Just ... floating. Elira takes the lantern again. She descends slowly, each stair lit by moonlight seeping in through ancient arrow slits. She does not wake anyone. No one else can hear the bell tonight. Only those with star minds and sleep dust in their lashes. She exits the tower, barefoot this time. The grass tickles her toes. And there, at the edge of the orchard, just before the mist begins, she sees it. A gate, but not one made of wood, or iron, or stone. This gate is woven from mist and moonlight. Its arch shifts, not quite here, not quite elsewhere, and tied to one side by a thread of silver hair. Is the bell no bigger than a walnut, its metal thin as breath? Chime. Alira watches it sway. She steps toward it. Her feet crunch over fallen leaves and soft mosses that seem to glow faintly underfoot. She does not touch the gate. She knows better than that. Instead, she kneels before the bell and sets her lantern on the earth beside it. Then she waits. And the bell begins to hum. Not loud, not sharp, but steady. A vibration inside the bones, and with it, the air changes. It thickens, slows, as though time itself begins to nap. And from the mist behind the gate, a shape begins to form. You feel it too now, don't you? The shift, the stillness. This is the moment when dreams begin to speak. The figure is not frightening. It is cloaked, shrouded, its face hidden beneath a deep hood. Nor is it dead. It is a keeper, one of the many who wait between worlds. Its robe is stitched from starlight and shadows. It rustles with the sound of turning pages. It kneels across from Alira. No words pass between them, only silence. And the bell chime. The keeper reaches into its cloak and removes a pouch of velvet. It offers it to Alira. The pouch is warm, and inside, a key, old, smooth, cold as iron, light as thought, and just beneath the spiral, a symbol, one Alira knows well. The constellation, Velari, the weaver's crown. She nods. The keeper inclines its head, a gesture that feels like memory brushing skin. Then it stands, turns, and vanishes through the mist gate. Alira remains kneeling a while longer, not in fear, not even in wonder. Not even in wonder. When she returns to the turret, the pouch rests in her palm. She does not rush. She places it on the corner of her writing desk. Tonight, it is not a puzzle to be solved, not a task. One that will reveal itself only when she is ready. And until then, she will dream. And you too, dear listener, you too are ready to dream. The bell has tolled for you as well. It rang softly from the edge of your thoughts. Where story and silence hold hands, let it carry you now. Let your eyes close, just a little more, and know that whatever gate you pass through tonight, it will remember you. Outside, the stars swirl once more. The key rests quietly, waiting for its door. And Thornhill, you are not alone. You are never alone beneath the stars. Let your body settle a little deeper. Let the muscles in your brow soften, your jaw unclench. Feel your breath like a tide, slow and gentle. You are safe, you are warm. You are floating between pages of dreams. Our story tonight continues. On a morning that came so quietly, the birds had to whisper to one another just to be sure it was real. Alira slept longer than usual, the kind of sleep that arrives only after a gift from the stars has been accepted. When she woke, the turret was filled with amber light, pouring through the arched windows in golden streams. Dust motes. Her body felt heavy in the best of ways, as if she'd slept curled in a cloud. She reached out, fingers brushing the velvet pouch on the desk. And for the first time, she saw what she'd missed the night before. Not just a key, but a folded square of parchment beneath it. Soft, thin, like old skin, drawn in ink so faded. She carefully unfolded it and gasped. It wasn't a map of land, not roads, not rivers, or borders. It was a sky map, but not one she recognized, not a star chart from any of her books. These constellations. Yeseva so faintly. She blinked, rubbed her eyes. No mistake. The ink shimmered gently, almost as if it breathed. And the longer she looked at it, the more she realized the stars were not fixed. They shifted slowly. They drifted across the parchment, each following its own invisible current. She whispered, and as she whispered, a single star on the map flickered twice. Alira understood in that moment that this was not a chart of the known sky. It was a chart of the possible sky. A celestial map that changed as you dreamed. It reflected not just stars, paths not yet taken, ideas half-formed in the spaces between sleep and waking, and the key not meant for a door in the castle. No, it was meant for a door inside her. One that opened only when you truly listened to the sky. Take another soft breath. Let your chest rise gently and fall. You are gliding now. Weightless in the warmth of candlelight and curiosity. Alira wrapped the map carefully and placed it beside her journal. Then she went to her astrolabe, the brass still cool to the touch. She began turning its rings, one by one, aligning them with the stars she now felt rather than saw. There were no names for these stars, only shapes, and moods, and old, wordless songs. Each click of the astrolabe's turning rings echoed like a pebble dropping into deep water, and when the final ring locked into place, the turret changed. It began with the shadows. They drew longer, curling inward like vines. The air grew still. Even the candle flames paused, as though holding their breath. And then a sound. Not from the walls, not from outside, but from within the astrolabe itself. Tick, tick. T-I-C-K. Like a clock that it only now remembered it was alive. And in the center of the astrolabe, a small compartment opened. Alira's breath caught. Inside, nestled in velvet, was a tiny lens, crystal clear, smooth as rain, the size of a raindrop. She lifted it gently, held it to the window, and the sky changed. What had been blue turned to velvet black. Stars winked into being, and not the usual constellations. These were older, stranger. One in the shape of a spiral shell. Another, a single eye. A third, shaped like a harp with broken strings. She lowered the lens. She lifted it again, and the other sky returned. A secret sky, a hidden layer to the world, like ink only visible in moonlight. She whispered again, "What are you showing me?" And this time, the sky whispered back. Imagine that now. A lens that lets you see the dreams of the stars. Not just their light, but their memories. Let yourself drift with Alira, higher, quieter. Among symbols and secrets so old, even the wind forgets how to speak them. That evening, after the keep had gone quiet again, Alira did not go to the turret right away. Instead, she walked the halls of Thornhill Keep, touching the stone, tracing the lines in its age-worn walls. She passed tapestries that no longer had names, doors that never opened, fireplaces filled with ash and time, and she whispered to them all. I saw it. The hidden sky, the breath of the stars. And though none answered aloud, the silence changed. It became attentive, as though the keep itself was listening now, not as a building, but as something more. Something old and patient and kind. By the time she returned to the tower, the moon was already high. She brought the lens, the silver-threaded key, and the question that had followed her all day. What do I do with this knowing? She did not yet have the answer, but she did not need it. Not yet. For the stars would tell her, one breath at a time, one dream at a time, one story at a time. And so, dear listener, so may they speak to you as well. Not in words, but in warmth, in wonder, in stillness. Close your eyes. If you haven't already, the map breathes for you too. The sky folds its wings around you. And the turret, it's just beside your pillow. You are there. You've always been there. Let the body relax just a little more than it already has. Notice your breath not, because you have to, but because it feels good to feel it. Like a lantern swinging slowly in a quiet hall, our story tonight continues. At the edge of sleep and starlight, Elira sat cross-legged on her floor, velvet maps spread before her like a pool of soft moonlight. She placed the tiny star lens at its center and gently spun it with her fingertip. The map reacted instantly. Stars on the parchment began to hum. Not out loud, but within her mind. A faint vibration, like the echo of a bell rung in a dream. The hum grew deeper, richer. And then, one by one, the constellations began to sing. They did not use words. Not in any tongue spoken in the keep or the kingdom beyond it. No, these were not songs of words. They were songs before words. Songs made of memory and mathematics, geometry and grief, curiosity and kindness. The sound came not from the map or the lens, but from the space around her. The stone walls, the old wooden beams above her, all of them gently vibrating to the melody of the stars. Elira pressed her hand to the floor end, felt the turret itself was singing. A deep, slow chord that never ended, only changed. And she began to understand. She was hearing the music of the spheres. In ancient times, philosophers had believed the heavens made music, that each planet, each star, each moon moved in harmony with the others, creating a song too vast, too perfect for ordinary ears to hear. But in this tower, in this forgotten turret of Thornhill Keep, a small girl with ink-stained fingers and moonlit eyes was hearing it, as though the stars are singing to you now. Breathe out, as though your body hums back quietly, lovingly. You are floating within that harmony now, safe, still, and surrounded. Elira sat very still. She could feel her thoughts slowing, her heartbeat sinking with something older. The melody wound through her like a gentle river, and she saw them constellations she'd never known. A woman pouring water into the ocean of the sky. A stag with antlers made of comets. A hand cradling the moon. Each one sang its own tone. And together they wove a lullaby, not meant to end. She let her mind drift into the weave of it. And then, a flicker, a constellation near the edge of the map, began to dim. Elira blinked. The stars in that formation, 5 of them faded just slightly. Then again, she leaned closer. It wasn't her imagination. The stars in that constellation were dying. Not in the sky, on the map, was faltering. Their tone in the cosmic song was falling silent. She reached for the astrolabe, aligning its rings to the fading shape. The central dial shivered in her hand. The rings resisted turning, just for a moment, as if they too sensed something unnatural. Finally, she locked them in place. And the lens glowed, a soft pulse of blue light. She placed it over the fading constellation, and in a burst of light that didn't hurt her eyes only expanded her breath. The turret around her vanished. She was no longer sitting on stone. She was standing on a bridge of starlight. Beneath her feet, the sky stretched in every direction. Above her, stars like lanterns. Below her, the velvet dark shimmered with motion. It was not cold. It was not warm. It simply was. And from ahead, a voice. Not a person. A presence. It spoke not in syllables, but in stardust. Alira understood. You are one who listens, one who remembers, she answered, though she did not open her mouth. Yes, I see the sky's stories. And the voice replied, then you must mend what is fraying. Mend what is fraying. The phrase echoed, like silk unraveling, like a thread snapping in the loom of the universe. Alira looked down. The stars beneath her shimmered again, revealing something new. Not stars this time, but threads. Vast, glowing threads that connected each star to another. A web of golden light. But in one place, the thread had snapped. It's infrayed, fluttering, trying to hold on to something it no longer touched. And Alira knew. This was what the map had shown her. This was the constellation that dimmed. Its thread had broken. And the stars were mourning. Imagine now that the world itself is stitched together with stories, each one a thread in the sky, each one fragile and holy. Imagine being called to mend one, to be the hand that remembers. Let that idea settle into your heart like warm tea in a clay cup. The presence around her spoke again. Alira nodded. Yes, and from within her palm, a needle of starlight appeared. Delicate, weightless, its tip glowed blue, and the thread she would use, it wasn't made of silk or string. It was made of memory. Her memory. The story she would tell to stitch the sky whole again. The story of the forgotten constellation. A tale that had been lost but not gone, not forever. Not while someone still listened. Not while someone still believed the stars could speak. And she would be the one to remember it. Let yourself feel that warmth now, that quiet courage. The belief that even the smallest voice can mend the biggest silence. Let it wrap around you like a blanket woven of whispers. You are resting now beneath a sky that sings for you. And someone, somewhere, is stitching its lullabies. The air around her shimmered. Each breath felt laced with silver. She knelt by the broken thread, the frayed end glowing faintly, trembling as though in pain, thin as cobweb. Yet it shimmered with a strange beauty. Alira reached for it with both hands, and as her fingers closed around it, a story bloomed in her mind. Not a story she had ever read in the keep's dusty books. Not one she had charted from her tower. No, this story came from the stars themselves, from before. Before Thornhill Keep. Before kingdoms. Before even parchment or ink. It told of a shepherd, a boy named Rhiannon, who lived when the stars still spoke aloud to those who listened. Alone, but not lonely. Each night, Rhiannon climbed the hills with his flute and played to the skies. Not for fame, not for prayer, but because the stars sang back to him. One night, as he played, a falling star landed in the valley below. It did not burn, it did not break, and when he found it, it was not a rock, but a seed. Alira's heart quickened. The thread pulsed in her hands eager, for its tale to be known again. She drew the starlight needle through the first frayed end, then gently, slowly, into the second. The thread resisted for a moment, then sighed, and the stars around her brightened. The broken constellation shimmered back into shape, and its forgotten name returned to the sky. Rhiannon's Trust. 5 stars, a gentle arc, like a boy offering his hand to the sky. Now, let yourself breathe in deeply. Let the starlight around you feel soft and cool. Let it ripple through your limbs like a gentle stream under moonlight. You are in the presence of remembrance. And that brings safety. Alira watched as the golden thread sealed itself. The stars hummed their gratitude. The great presence still without form surged around her once more. You have remembered. Therefore, he lives again. She understood. To forget was not merely to lose history. It was to unmake what had once existed, but to remember, even in whispers, was to revive. You will mend more, the voice said. Will you return when the stars call again? Alira answered without words. Yes, she bowed her head. The bridge beneath her began to fade. The threads shimmered, then blurred, then vanished like mist at dawn. And just like that, she was back in her turret. The map before her, the fire still warm in the hearth. A gentle breeze drifted in through the high window. She looked at the map. The once faded constellation now glowed gently. Rhiannon's Trust. The stars remembered again, and so would she. Far below, Thornhill Keep slept. The kitchens were dark, the courtyard quiet. Only an owl stirred near the gate, blinking at the sky. And high in the crumbling turret, one girl's breath moved gently. The star lens lay quiet, but pulsing faintly like. Star lens. like it knew. Rest with Alira now. Let the warmth of the story settle in your chest. You, too, have remembered something precious. Even if you don't yet know what it is. Sleep allows forgotten things to rise again, like stars behind clouds. And you are safe beneath their light. Now, sink a little deeper into your blanket of stillness. Let your breath drift like a feather falling through candlelight. You are in a tower of stone, wrapped in sleep, wrapped in story. And the sky above you holds its breath, waiting for the next word. Our tale returns to Elise. The stars outside Thornhill Keep still shimmered, but the map had dimmed. Not gone, not asleep, just resting. Alira leaned back in her chair. The memory of Rannan's constellation still pulsed behind her eyes. It was the kind of remembering that left your chest warm and your fingertips buzzing. But something tugged at her again. A quiet pull, not from the sky this time, but from beneath. She rose, silent as moonlight, wrapped her shawl around her shoulders, and lit the lantern once more. Not the breathlight lantern, but the little iron one her grandfather had once used to walk the halls during storms. Its light was soft but dependable. She stepped out of the turret and descended, not to the orchard, not to the Wynn Library, but deeper, far below the keep's kitchen, past the mossy cistern, below the echoing chapel. To the cellars, no one visited anymore, where silence gathered like dust. You're with her now, walking ancient stone steps, worn smooth by time, the lantern's light swinging gently with each breath you take, inhale and step, exhale, and feel the hush deepen. Alira reached the final stair. The air here felt old. It smelled of stone, lavender, and thread. Before her, a door stood cracked open. She had never noticed it before, though she'd walked these cellars dozens of times. It had always seemed just another shadow. But tonight, it shimmered faintly. She stepped inside and gasped. It was a loom room, an ancient one. Dust clung to every beam. Cobwebs stitched themselves between rusted hooks and wooden wheels. The walls bore fading murals. Images of women seated at great looms, their hands moving in spirals and stars. In the center of the room, a single loom remained, tall, wide, its treadles untouched for centuries. But its threads, oh, its threads, faint lines of gold, like spider silk dipped in sunlight, and on the bench before it sat no one. Yet the shuttle moved, back and forth, weaving nothing into something. Alira approached slowly. The rhythm of the loom's motion matched her heartbeat. She did not touch it. Not yet. But she watched as the golden threads bent, twisted and layered, not into a rug, not into a blanket, but into an image, a tapestry, unfinished but forming. She began to see it. A tower, a girl, a map, an astrolabe, a bell swinging in fog, and then herself, sitting right here, watching this very moment. The loom was weaving her story, thread by golden thread, and suddenly she understood. This was the loom beneath the keep, the one whispered of by the oldest servants, the one said to stitch the fate of Thornhill, not through kings or battles, but through watchers, the ones who remembered what others forgot. Now pause for just a breath. Let the feeling settle in your ribs that you, too, are being gently woven into something greater, not by force, but by listening, by resting, by dreaming. The shuttle paused. Alira stepped closer. A new thread had appeared, one finer than the rest. This one pulsed with blue-white light. She knew this thread. It was the same thread that had come from the sky, the one that carried Rannan's forgotten tale. The loom waited, and Alira reached out. She lifted the glowing strand and placed it carefully into the warp. The shuttle resumed its quiet weaving. The thread sank into place like a note in a lullaby, and with it, the tapestry glowed just a little brighter. She sat beside the loom now, not to interfere, not to hurry it, just to be near it. To feel the threads shift with each breath of wind, to listen to the faint hum of purpose. And there, in that ancient, dusty room, Alira let her eyes grow heavy. The loom whispered its rhythm into her chest, and she drifted into a sleep so deep it felt like floating through velvet, wrapped in gold, wrapped in silence, wrapped in the story of everything. And you, dear listener, you too are part of the weaving now. With each breath, you add a strand to the quiet tapestry. With each moment of rest, you strengthen the pattern. You are not forgotten. Asterisk, you are remembering. And the loom beneath your own life is singing softly now, weaving peace into your dreams. It began, as most magic things do, with a breeze that did not belong. A whisper of cool wind, though the window was latched shut. It carried with it the faintest chime, like silver bells, muffled by moss. Not toward the map, but toward the base of the tower, where the wind had slithered beneath her door. She opened it, slowly. Nothing, only moonlight pooling on stone. Yet, there it was again, that breath of wind, that faint, clear chime, and something more, a glint, just at the edge of her stairwell, where the shadows should have swallowed it whole. She followed, lantern in hand, barefoot again. The chill stare curled down. The old keep held its breath, and then she found the mirror. It had not been there before. Alira was sure of it. Tall nearly twice her height, framed in dark wood, inlaid with patterns that reminded her of Arabic script curves and points, dancing like birds. Not like glass, not like silver, but like clouded water. She stepped closer, lifted her lantern. Her reflection barely showed. Only the shape of her, blurred, flickering, and then a second shape, not behind her, but within the mirror. A girl with a starlit braid and wide, wondering eyes, wearing Alira's cloak. But it was not Alira. Not quite. The girl reached toward her. Not threatening, not frightening, just gently, as though she were reaching for her own reflection, too. Alira did the same. Fingertips to fingertips. And suddenly, the mirror breathed. It rippled outward like a pond disturbed by wind. And Alira stepped through. Let your body float, now. Let the ground soften beneath you. You're gliding with Alira into a dream within a dream, deeper into the hush, deeper into the stars. She was standing in a room of glass, no walls, no corners, just mirror stall, arched, endless, each one reflecting a slightly different version of her turret. Some dusty and dim, some full of gold light, some with night still fresh on the window panes, some with her in them. Without, and in the center of it all, a chair. Old, wooden, carved with stars, and seated in it, her grandmother. No, not her grandmother exactly, but a woman with the same eyes. Older, yes. Wrapped in a cloak of deep, navy-stitched, with tiny glinting points. Her voice, when it came, was softer than moth wings on parchment. I wondered when you'd find your way here. Alira said nothing, just stepped forward. The woman smiled. This place exists in all keepers. When your gift opens, so does this door. Alira's lips parted. Who are you? The woman tilted her head. I'm who you'll become. I'm who you've been before. And suddenly, Alira understood. This room was not made of mirrors. It was made of selves. All her stargazing selves. Past, present, possible. Stretching backward and forward through time. All converging here. The woman rose. She took Alira's hand. It was warm. It was steady. Your path will not always be visible. But the stars are still there, even behind clouds. She handed Alira something wrapped in cloth. Smooth. Heavy. The cloth fell away, far older than the one on Alira's desk, and etched with unfamiliar constellations, curves, and stars she had never studied. These stars, the woman whispered, are not in the sky. Alira looked up, confused. They're inside you? Let that thought settle over your shoulders now. The idea that you hold constellations no one else can chart. That, within your breath, within your dreaming, there is a sky all your own. Alira closed her eyes, and when she opened them, she was back in her turret. The mirror was gone, but the astrolabe was in her lap, solid, real, and still warm from the woman's hand. Watched the strange constellations shift, and for the first time, Alira didn't reach for her journal. She didn't rush to name them. She simply watched and let herself be the sky. Sleep now, soft traveler. You are surrounded by your own stars. They whisper lullabies in a language older than time. And like Alira, remembering how to listen. When morning came, Alira didn't wake with a start. She unfurled from sleep like a page turning in slow motion, each breath smooth and gentle. Sunlight slid in through the high windows, but even it tiptoed, golden and soft, so as not to disturb her dreaming. The old astrolabe still rested beside her pillow, cool now, but still mysterious. She held it up once, more turning it slowly, in the quiet morning light. Some sharp like knives, some curved like rivers, some shaped like hands, all uncharted, all unnamed. She sat at her table, opened her journal. But something strange happened when she dipped her quill in ink. The ink vanished. It disappeared before her eyes, as if the paper rejected it. As if whatever stars she'd seen in that mirrored realm could not be drawn the old way. She tried again. Nothing. The page remained white as bone. And Alira felt something stir inside her. Not frustration, not fear, but understanding. This was not a map for the eyes. This was a map for the soul. She closed the journal and reached instead for the smallest piece of parchment she had. Then, with the point of her quill, she scratched. No ink, no pigment, only shallow grooves, tiny incisions, a pattern only visible if the light hit it just so. It was not for others. It was not for books. It was for her. And as she worked, she whispered, not in Latin, not in Arabic, but in something softer, the way one might speak to a sleeping bird, or to a memory nearly lost. Let yourself imagine that now. A language that has no sound, a script that has no lines, a truth that lives only in the rhythm of your breath. That's what Alira was learning to hear. Days passed, then weeks, and still no one disturbed the tower. No one came looking. No one summoned her for bread or firewood or festival. The world below Thornhill Keep seemed to forget her, or perhaps protect her. Time grew gentle. Her routine became sacred. Chart, the sky. Wake. Scratch maps only she could feel. It was the night of the winter crescent, when the moon barely smiled. Alira was seated in her usual place, knees wrapped in the shawl her mother once spun, eyes lifted to a sky dusted with diamonds. Her journal lay unopened. Tonight wasn't a night for writing. Tonight, something felt near. The astrolabe had grown quiet. Still, too still. It hadn't pulsed in days. Not even when she whispered to it. Not even when she dreamed. That's when she heard it. Not from within her dream, but from just outside it. A sound. Not footsteps. Not hooves. It was more like wind. Like someone was walking without feet, moving without mass. She opened her eyes and found her breath had already slowed. She wasn't frightened, only aware. Someone or something was in the tower. The candle beside her flickered, though there was no draught, and in the doorway, where the shadow of the staircase met stone, stood a figure. Let yourself imagine that now. Shaped like a man, but his cloak shimmered like oil on water. Not quite solid, not quite smoke. And where his eyes should have been, only stars, tiny galaxies swirling. He carried no lantern, no scroll, no weapon, only his silence. And still, Alira knew. He had come for the astrolabe, but not to take it, to awaken it. And her. He spoke no word aloud, but his thoughts drifted to her like falling feathers. You have traced the unwritten map. You have named the stars that do not speak. You are ready. Her voice, when it came, was quiet, but steady. The figure's head tilted, and a slow nod stirred the shadows behind him. Not a name. A doorway. He raised his hand to the astrolabe, and as if drawn by gravity, it floated from her lap into the space between them. Rings began to spin. Softly at first, like the circling of birds, then faster, faster. And always, always, listen to the astrolabe. Some nights, the brass would hum softly. No visible movement, no glow, just a quiet, low vibration, like a lullaby. She began to hold it as she slept, cradled in her arms like a dreaming child. And in those dreams, she traveled. She dreamed of oceans she'd never seen, villages carved into cliffs, forests where trees whispered secrets through glowing bark. In each dream, she was different. Older, younger, sometimes not even herself. But in each dream, she was seeking the sky. And always, the astrolabe led the way. One night, she saw something new. In the center of the astrolabe, beneath the rotating rings and delicate etchings, there was a keyhole. So small, she'd missed it before. Just a tiny notch. And next to it, in the metal, barely scratched in a symbol. A star with 8 points. And beneath it, a word. Not in any language she knew, just a whisper of letters. Thylum. Let that word settle in you now. Thylum. It feels like a name, or maybe a place, or a question, or maybe it's the part of you that remembers what dreams forgot. Alira didn't try to translate it. She just pressed her finger gently against the word, and for a moment, the astrolabe warmed again. Not hot. Not pulsing. Just aware. But the key, if there was one, was not something she'd found. Not yet. So she waited, patient, listening. She knew now that not all answers came with maps. Some answers came with stillness. Rest now. Little star watcher, you don't need to know the whole sky tonight. Only that it is watching you back. Only that you are made of the same things. And that is enough. The center glowed. Not with fire, but with memory. A warm, steady hum that resonated in the bones, and with a soft metallic click, the hidden keyhole opened. Inside, not even gears, just light. A small orb of blue-white brilliance, no larger than a pearl. It pulsed. And Alira felt every breath she had ever taken, every question, every moment she had stood in silence, wondering if someone, somewhere, was looking back. The figure spoke once more, this time aloud. His voice was velvet thunder, soft but immense. This is not the end of the sky, Alira, of Thornhill. This is the beginning of it. She stepped forward, one barefoot step on the stone. The cold floor beneath her was no longer unwelcome. She was part of the tower now, part of its silence, its vigil. She held out her hand. The orb lowered itself into her palm, and she gasped, not in pain, but in recognition, because inside the orb, she saw everything. Not as in a vision, not in pictures or stories, but in feelings. She knew where the lost stars had gone. She knew the names the old maps had forgotten. She knew why her dreams had taken her to other lives. It wasn't fantasy. It was memory. And the astrolabe had been the vessel. Let yourself feel that now. Not an ending, not even a destination. Just a return to the self that always knew. The figure stepped back. His form began to dissolve, but in completion, as if his time was done, as if her light was enough now. And just before he vanished, his final thought found her. The sky is not above you. It is within you. Then he was gone. Only stars remained, and the hush of the wind. Alira turned back to the window. The stars above shimmered, but now she could hear them, not with ears, with soul. A soft chorus of old lullabies, travelers' songs, and forgotten wishes that never stopped whispering. She wasn't alone. she had never been. Sleep now. Sleep with that knowing in your heart, that you are watched by the same stars Elira saw, that your dreams are not mistakes, they are maps. And one day, when you are ready, they will lead you home. Breathe gently now. You've come far, so very far. And now, just as the stars once waited for Elira to find them, they wait for you to rest beneath their glow. Morning never truly begins at Thornhill Keep. It unfolds like a page long left unturned. Mist curls over the moor, curling around the crumbling stones, settling into every hollow. The hearth has cooled, but it leaves behind the scent of ash and cedar wood, the kind that makes you feel like time has been kind after all. Birdsong doesn't rush in. It drifts like dust motes in candlelight. Elira had not slept, but she was not tired. Not in the way she once knew. She had spent the long hours of twilight curled in the tower window, the orb nestled in her hands. And when dawn finally dared to touch the horizon, Elira did not turn away. For the first time in her life, she looked to the east and smiled. She had always thought the stars lived only at night, but now she knew. They are never gone, only hidden, like truths waiting behind veils, like stories sleeping under skin. The astrolabe had changed. It no longer spun on its own. Now, it responded only to her. When she thought of a constellation, its rings would align in soft worry clicks. Its inner light, casting warm halos on the stone walls. Each star's story unfolded inside her, layer by layer, like petals in bloom. Let yourself feel that now. What if the stories you've forgotten were never truly lost? What if they've just been waiting patiently until the quiet returned? Like tonight, like now, Elira had one last task. One last page to close before the next would open. And it began in the deepest chamber of Thornhill Keep, beneath even the old kitchens and the place where no fires were lit, the place that kept only shadows. She carried the astrolabe with her, down winding stairs, down breathless corridors, until she reached the iron door. It had no handle, only a symbol, the same etched upon the orb, a spiral of stars, a path returning to its origin. She pressed the orb to it. The iron groaned, not as metal, but as memory waking. The door opened, and behind it was sky, not the sky above, but the sky within, a vast dome carved into the earth, rimmed with ancient crystals that hummed as she entered. The air was warmer here, as if the stars had gathered to greet her. Above, constellations moved as if stirred by breath. Some she recognized, others she had never seen, never dreamed.